Hi, everyone. Welcome to Exhale Online with Pravi. Welcome to the month of September as well. We made it through August and we're here on the ninth month, and it's going to be a fantastic month for those of you who have already started feeling it in the air. We just have a few months to go to Christmas for all you Christmas lovers. And I am so excited. We call this the Ember Month. This is the period everybody, is usually scared. They're afraid because of in Africa, they believe that this is the period people are begin to renew their covenants, and all that. But I'm excited because as a believer, I also understand what this phase of the year really looks like, because for me as a believer, he crowns my year with great success. So this is the period of great success, great achievements, and great blessings. And I pray the same for you who are listening. And I pray that you will encounter a very beautiful and a very fruitful September, as well as the other parts of the year as well. Well, I want to thank you for those of you who tried to find out why I was absent on Sunday and we were unable to air. Unfortunately, I've been down with a mild cold, and it kind of affected my throat. So I was having, sore throat issues, and for some reason, I lost my voice completely. So I was not really audible, and even if I had come online, you may not have been able to hear me. And so I sincerely apologize for being unable to be around, but I am so excited to be back. And we have been talking about, breaking unhealthy habits, and we have been stuck for a while on breaking unhealthy sexual patterns. And it's funny, my iPad just kind of froze a bit. It was literally on some few minutes ago, and my notes. But well, we're going to run with it the way we know how to do it. But I want to just appreciate every one of you that took out time to reach out of concern. It's always good to feel valued and appreciated. And so I really want to thank God for you. So I want to kick off by asking, have you ever been in that place, in your life where you felt you were stuck, in a particular loop, you were stuck in a particular circle, and you found yourself, unable to make progress because of a particular place you found yourself in life, in terms of, that trap, you found yourself sexually. And so unfortunately, a lot of us have found ourselves reliving certain loops in our lives in terms of sexual behaviors. And, the sad part of it is that we keep making the same errors up and down. And like I defined, what it means to be in an unhealthy sexual pattern loop last Wednesday. And I said being in on a sexual, unhealthy sexual loop was more or less, repeating yourself or finding yourself repeating habits or sexual patterns, that would keep you in a place of, emptiness, a place of void, a place where you felt trapped rather than a place where you found fulfillment, or a place where you found yourself being empowered. And a lot of people have allowed themselves to become a slave to these patterns, and a slave because you hardly find yourself finding your way out. Rather, you find yourself on auto repeat. I don't know. I do that a lot when I have a specific song that I am listening to, maybe on radio or Spotify or something, and I want to hear that song over and over again. So I just leave it on auto repeat. And so when it ends, it begins again. And it continues until I get tired and I decide to press the stop button. And a lot of us have found ourselves in that phase where we keep repeating. And just when that cycle is about ending, we find ourselves repeating it again and again. And the only person who has the power and ability to press that stop button and tell themselves that, look, it's time for me to stop these patterns, it's time for me to get out of this loop, would be you. So you hold the keys to your future, you hold the keys to your destiny, you hold the keys to your progress. And the moment you realize how to use that key and to press that button called stop, you find yourself listening to something new, something different, something that would make your life a bit more exciting and a bit more pleasurable. So we're going to continue on that. And I want to bring us back. We gave a few examples on some of these sexual patterns. And one of the things I talked about is when one uses sex, to cope with loneliness and low self-esteem. And I gave a few examples regarding that. So if you want to go back and watch past episodes just to refresh your mind, it would be very beneficial to you. Another example we gave was people who are getting addicted to pornography or sexual content to satisfy their sexual urge or to satisfy, a part of them that is feeling a bit empty, a little voidness in the inside of them that needs to be filled. And they're using these pornography or sexual contents to fill those voids, to give them that sense of, purpose, as it were. Another thing would be staying in toxic relationships because of physical attachment. And I kind of brushed through that. And I'm going to talk about today, we're going to continue from multiple partners with no sense of emotional connection. It's quite sad that in this generation, we have a lot of people who believe in the art of multiple partners, as it were. You have one. When I say it, it sounds funny, and somebody would say, "Would you consider prostitution to be an unhealthy sexual pattern?" I would say yes, I would. As much as somebody feels she's getting paid for it, or you feel you have to, as we call it here in this side of the country, if you feel you have to do runs, right, to get that self satisfaction and get paid, my sister, it is a very unhealthy sexual pattern. And for those of you who patronize, guys and ladies alike, because we have guys too who are putting themselves out there, to get paid for sex. And these multiple people who come and sleep with you take more from you than you actually realize. You think that you're just giving your body and collecting, money in return, but it's just so much more that you're giving than your body. You're giving so much more of yourself. And the sad part of it is, somebody says, well, why would it be a unhealthy pattern if it's paying? But because again, I'm going to approach it from the believer's stand of view, and I'm one of those who believes in what God says. And when God tells you, behold, you are the temple of the Holy Ghost, your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, and that you should keep it. Your body is supposed to be reverenced. Your body is supposed to be something that is kept as an art of worship. And I always say it, for those who are married, the art of sex or having to make love to your partner gives God glory. It's something that benefits God because it's something that produces godly children. It's something that produces, that bond between a couple. It's something that's supposed to bring unity into the home. It's something that's supposed to bring fruitfulness into the home. But you see, where it becomes abused and you are just having it with random people, rather than bringing glory, it is taking away, it is bringing shame, it is bringing, it's bringing embarrassment to God, as it were. And I like to use it, and I'm saying this because I'm taking it from the Christian point of view. And if you understand the beauty and how God values you as a person and how God values this body of yours, he values it so much that he knows, the number of the hair every number. If there are a million hairs in your body, he has taken note. That's how much God values your body. Now, when your body is being given for sexual pleasure, or it's given for monetary value, you are abusing the purpose for which this body was created. And as long as you are abusing the purpose of why it's created, it cannot be healthy. It cannot be healthy. And somebody said, but well, prostitutes have a way they protect themselves. They protect themselves from diseases, so they're wearing they use condoms, they use all sorts of stuff. But I ask you, do these things actually really protect you? They may protect you from unwanted pregnancy and probably STDs, but do they protect you from your self-value, from your self-worth? Does it protect you, does it protect the gift of God on the inside of you? And if you say that, oh, look, I'm using my money, my body, and I'm making so much money from it. I'm such a beautiful girl. High class men are paying in millions for me. Just before I came online, we were sharing with a friend, and we're talking about ladies who work, especially in the marketing industry. And you go to market a product maybe to a high-end customer, and the guy offers you a lot of money, or the woman offers you a lot of money, and you are compromising your life, your future, your destiny at that moment. Now, it may be a good deal for you at that moment, but my question for you is, if you feel that standing on the street corner, or having men jump in and out, or jumping in and out of a different man's bed every week, or having a different woman on your bed every week or every day is gratifying financially or otherwise for you, then you really don't even understand who you are. You have sold yourself short. You have sold your value short. Because if you know the potentials that God has deposited on the inside of you, and the things that you carry on the inside of you, giving yourself out for 20,000, 50,000, hell, 1 million is selling yourself short. And I was telling somebody, we were talking over the weekend, and something happened. And I told the person, I said, you know what? Anybody who is trying to put monetary value on me is an insult to my person, because I know who I am. I am priceless. You cannot buy me. I don't care how much money you have in the world, even if you have $1 billion, you cannot come and say, okay, you know what? I am trying to buy you. I am trying to buy your body. I'm trying to buy your sex for me, because I know that on the inside of me is so much more. And what God has deposited on the inside of me, if I channel it to the right way and I use it for the right purpose, trust me, I can make that same money with my gifts and my potential. And you say, sex is your gift, my sister. You have not really studied you. You have not really known who you are, because if you know who you are, you will realize that there's so much more on the inside of you than what you are selling and offering. And I say the same for the man who feels that, the only way I can feel valued, important, loved, or feel like a man is when I have multiple women. You have one in your bedroom at home, you have one in another hotel, you have another in another hotel, and probably a few others lined up for other days, and you call yourself the kingpin. My darling, you are selling yourself short. There's so much more on the inside of you that you are giving yourself to these girls, and giving yourself very cheaply. I don't care what you feel they're giving you. First and foremost, you're the guy. You're losing. You're dropping your finances that you could use for something else more profitable for you. For, For what? A booty call? Something that if you found the right woman and you put a ring on it, you can get at your beck and call. But, it's unfortunate that so many of us do not understand, the consequences of multiple sexual partners. Because at the end of the day, one of uh, the things that come with that is that, like I told you last week, Wednesday, the ability to be able to commit to one person at the end of the day becomes very, very difficult for you, because you're already used to multiple people coming in and out. So, the ability to, compare and contrast is so much for you. Now, I was saying it back with a few friends some time back when we were having this conversation, and I said, well, back then when men married women, and you would always hear, well, I married my wife as a virgin, or I met your mother as a virgin, as it were. And, there was really no one she could compare with her spouse. Why? Because, look, he was her first, her only. So all she knew about sexual pleasure was wrapped around him. But you see, now there is James, there's Philip, there's John, there's Bob, and they have all ran the race before the person who comes. And so the person who comes has a tough time meeting up to expectations because others have run the course. She has already tested the flavor, so she knows what other guys feel like. So if you do not deliver, you become a problem for her. Or if he doesn't deliver, he becomes a problem for you. Or you have tasted the skills of Lucy, Jane, Miriam, Aisha, and now you're married, and then whoever you have, probably is somebody who has not really been too experienced, but you want to compare her with the numerous girls that you have. Oh, well, this person, this is what she usually did for me. This person usually went down on me. You're not doing that. And, so multiple partners, may be exciting for you now, but trust me, there are greater consequences that come with it. And I'm not even going to talk much about the physical as I will about the spiritual when we get to that bridge. So I want you to sit down and ask yourself, what is that thing that I find myself, that those sexual loopholes that I found myself, loops that I find myself reliving every now and then in every relationship I find myself. In every time I meet a guy, do I really want to be quick to sleeping with him? And every lady I sleep, do I see a potential wife, or do I see a potential booty call, or do I see a potential person that I just want to have my time and season with, and then let the person go? Now, if you find yourself repeating those loops, my dear, you would want to pause and wait for when we start talking about how to break it. Because remember, like I said, you're the only one who has the ability to press the stop button for your life. Hi. So, why do young adults get stuck? Why do we get stuck in this unhealthy sexual pattern, despite the fact that we have heard over time that, engaging in sexual activities as a young adult who is not yet married is wrong? We have it out there. It's said everywhere. But like I said, these days, it's all over telling us that that's not the truth. You could have as many sexual partners as you want. In fact, right now, people are advocating for, marrying more than one wife. Some cultures now have started endorsing women marrying more than one husband. And, it's just becoming a complete mess. But why do we find young adults getting stuck? One reason would be for emotional reasons. We've tackled a few of them, which would be loneliness, the desire for acceptance, and then stress relief. Somebody feels that that's the only way I could vent. That's the only way I can let my stress out. Another reason people find themselves, or young adults find themselves getting stuck, would be the mental reasons. And mental reasons would be, our brain's habits are already used to it, and you find yourself in an environment that triggers you. It triggers that urge in you. And the moment you find yourself being triggered, the next thing that comes up is the urge comes up. Or I find myself, where am I? I am, in the club, and I'm hanging out with these friends, and I'm seeing these girls dancing so sexually. They're dancing so sensually. And what happens next? I get triggered. And after I get triggered, what happens? Oh, the urge kicks in. Now that urge, it's one thing or the other. Most of the time, you want to reward that urge. And so that's where you find. So it becomes a repeat circle. It becomes okay, I find myself in the place, the trigger, the urge, the reward. And that keeps going. That keeps going. Every time I get triggered, I get the urge. Every time I get the urge, I have to reward it by giving into that. Now, that is one of the most frequent loops that I see a lot of young adults finding themselves in. Okay, it's not club. Oh, I take alcohol. The moment I get alcohol, oh, it triggers something on me. And then again, I get the urge. And then again, I have to satisfy the urge. Or, oh, I'm watching porn. Oh, it triggers. Then I get the urge. Then I want to reward the urge. So you see what I mean? So every time you set yourself in a place where you would find yourself getting triggered, it's a repeat circle. And mentally, the brain has accepted that. So every time your brain finds you in a place, it tells you, wait a minute, you're in a place, I'm going to get triggered. So the trigger comes, it reminds you, urges, satisfy it, and you find yourself so under pressure until you satisfy it. So mental reasons are one of the reasons. Another would be social, and we kind of talked about social several times. We talked about peer pressure and the social media influence, and I talked about how friends, just wanting to belong into a circle, the cool guys, the clique of people. I don't want to be that last virgin in my clique. I don't want to be that last person who has not experienced or so you want to impress your friends by also engaging, and all that. Or your friends, you're in a hotel, guess what, hotel policy. Oh, well, we bring ladies or guys, to for your fancy, just to entertain you while you are our guest. And some people fall for that, and some people will tell you, no, I recognize that. I do not want to be found in that loop. So it's social, and a lot more of this generation is centered around social influence, especially the social media, which I told you is doing a very, 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 very terrible job in recruiting our children into these sexual patterns that they find themselves. And, because these sexual patterns are becoming, something that we always see ourselves reliving these days, it becomes a very big problem. Now, another reason would be, the spiritual aspect, and the spiritual would be more like losing sight of your personal values, how you were trained by your parents, how your parents raised you, the kind of upbringing you had. And, somebody and I were discussing some time back, and they were like, how is it that most of the time that the pastor's children are always, the most radical and stuff like this and all that? And you would think that with everything that they were taught or everything they saw, they would come out better. But then, there's just so much other reasons why they find themselves, like, again, the social, the mental, the emotional, and all that. But the spiritual aspect, when you lose sight of your physical values, or your spiritual values, your purpose, your identity, you will find yourself, living in that loophole over and over again. And I think that is the greatest trap that Satan has roped our children in these days, where you find yourself, living in that circle of, not knowing why you were here. Because like I said, if you know yourself, if you know your value, if you know the purpose for why God created you, trust me, you will be the last girl that will stand on the streets and tell yourself, I want to sell my body for sex. Or you'll be the last person who will spend their time on the porn sites, looking for pornography that would just satisfy you for a few minutes. You'd be the last person, to want multiple women coming in and out of your bedroom, or multiple guys coming out of your bedroom, because you understand that every time I do this, it takes away something valuable from me. It takes away a sense of my purpose. It takes away a sense of my value. It takes away my dignity. It takes away my very core and essence of who I am. And because, like I told you, every time you give yourself off to, sex, something happens, because there is a transfer of spirit. Just like we believe, for those of us who are Christians, that every time, a pastor would lay their hands on our head, to pray that sickness is taken away and the healing virtue is replaced, is the same thing. Somebody, this is just laying on of hands. How much more somebody sleeping with you and depositing a part of them on the inside of you. So you take a bit of someone with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you find yourself, not able to achieve, a story of a young girl sometime was told to me of a girl who was a virgin, a very straight A student, and she was fantastic. And there was this guy that, she got into a relationship with, and this guy was always like on her case, let's have sex, and she kept on saying no. And somehow, the young guy, uh, coerced her into having sex with him. And, when she did, after a while, she just noticed that she was struggling academically. You know, um, she was no longer performing academically. On the contrary, he wasn't too bright, but all of a sudden, he could read and understand. And she went back home, and she talked to her grandma. When her grandma saw her result, the grandma asked her one simple question. She was a Christian. She asked her, "Have you had sex with someone? Have you slept with anyone?" And she started crying, and she told her grandmother the truth. And the mother told her, "We need to pray for you," because there was that exchange. Because all of a sudden, you have taken from him the ability not to understand when you read like that, or you're not doing too well academically, and he, on the other hand, now has taken from you something valuable, your ability to assimilate when you read. And you see, people do not understand that these things, you may say, "Oh, come on, Poavi, this does not sound real. This, they just say these things." You'd be amazed. There's a reason why God designed marriage to be for one man, one woman. That's when you exchange. And he says, and when the two of them become one flesh, because they take from each other. And the more they take from each other, the more they become more unified. And that's why some of us would look at a married couple who are not born from the same tribe, from the same family, and we're like, "Oh God, they look alike," sort of. What is that thing that is bringing that resemblance? What is that thing that is making them to begin to look like one another? They have taken from one another several times in the place of intimacy. There's that connection, there's that deepness, there's that exchange. And that's what happens to us, for those of us who are Christians, when you are in tune with God, and you're in that place of worship, and that place of exchange comes because of that intimacy between you and God, or you and the Spirit of God, and you become more like Christ. It's the same thing. You become more like that person you sleep with. The more you're taking from him, the more he's taking from you, the more you are becoming one with that person. And it's so much more than that. So if you are becoming one with a harlot, you're sleeping with prostitutes, you're becoming one with them. For every time you do it, you are becoming bonded with that person. And I remember I dealt with this extensively when we're talking about Let's Talk About Sex. Again, I refer you to go back to Let's Talk About Sex, and please go. It will benefit you when you listen to that particular series, because it will tell you a lot about how you connect your soul. People call it soul ties, but it's beyond just tying your soul. It's sometimes you lose yourself, you lose your purpose, you lose who you are. You find yourself behaving strange. All of a sudden, you used to be this loving, kind person. Now you can be aggressive. You can be, so drama oriented. You can be this, and that's because you have taken so much of that in the place of intimacy and sex with another person. And so one of the dangerous things you could ever do to yourself is to find yourself jumping into bed with strangers often, because you lose you. So, and you take a lot of different spirits, different characters, different things to yourself. And that's the danger of multiple sexual partners. Somebody says, well, you know what? I have been with this one person now for years. I pray for you that rather than just being with that person, take it up a notch and allow yourself to bond in the place of marriage, because that is when that thing becomes beautiful. Because even if you've been with that one person for a long time and you are still engaging in this thing outside marriage, it is still an unhealthy pattern, and it will keep you going. And you'll find out that at the end of the day, a part of you still feels empty. Something is missing. Something is not complete. Something is not right. And on that note, I'm going to stop, and we're going to continue extensively on Sunday, where we'll take it a notch further, because aside the young youths, I would also be talking to marital couples, because we have a lot of marital couples who are introducing unhealthy sexual patterns into their homes. And that is why we have a lot of homes functioning, going through storms that they had no business going through. So I'm going to stop here, and I want to plead with you that if you are one of those who have found yourself entrapped in that place of multiple sexual partners, you want to sit down. Like I told you, you're the only person who has the ability to tell yourself, you know what, I'm going to stop. And you can press that stop button and tell yourself, you know what, I am tired of the auto repeat and I want to stop. I want something new. I want something different. You may be surprised that that new thing, that different thing that you want to experience may be something that will bring you of greater peace. Value may introduce you to a better version of yourself. And you might find out that that thing that you have sold yourself so short about, telling yourself that you are no good, telling yourself that you need sexual gratification as a way to tell yourself that you are valuable, may just not be what you actually need. What you need is self-discovery, who you are, that value of who you are, that purpose, that God-given deposition on the inside of you, that when you express it will open you to endless opportunities of the beauties and the wonders that God has in store for your life. So I want to stop here for today. I want to appreciate so many people. I see you coming and going, but thank you, Senior Andrew. I see you and I appreciate you always. For always being an encouragement. And I want to thank every one of you. I see a lot of names today. I may not be able to call all, but thank you. I want to appreciate each and every one of you. And again, please, if you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, the videos will soon start flooding in. I need you to subscribe. I need you to share, and I need you to help me to blow that that page up. So the YouTube page is EX-HALE Online with Pravi. I look forward to having you on that. And if you're here and if you enjoy this series, please don't just listen. Also, please do a favor for me and share and like. I thank you, Uncle R. I see you. And he says, preach to the boys and the men. Trust me, I am coming for them on Sunday. And please, your young boys, young men, please be there, because you really need this for you. It's not just for the ladies. Like I said, you think it's about carrying different spirits and walking around. It's just the ladies. No, it's you as well, because every time you are the one that even deposits. So you're depositing a bit of your DNA in different ladies, and they're carrying a little part of you and moving around. And that is so dangerous for you. You have no idea. So I'll be here again on Sunday, and I look forward to having every one of you. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Thank you for spending your airtime with me. It's always a privilege I do not take for granted. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful midweek, and God bless you. Lots of love from me. Please remember that Christ is coming soon. Be prepared. Be the reason why someone is smiling and doesn't take their life. Much love. Wow.